it's like you know somebody for years that you just met when you can start talking about something as cool as race cars or performance cars or something in the
Right.
industry, right? You have that instant bond. And so, I think you and I connected instantly. It's just,
Yeah.
I think we were laughing and acting like I said, we'd known each other forever.
Well, I mean, I am really cool, so I mean, there's that.
You on the 1 to 10 cool scale, you're definitely pushing a 12. There's no question about that. So maybe I was just riding your coattails. Like I'm gonna hang out with the cool kids.
Stop.
Welcome to the Gearheads and Gasoline podcast, where we dive into the high-octane world of market-leading shop owners, shop employees, and automotive enthusiasts from the aftermarket, restoration, performance, and racing industries. So strap in as we take you on an awesome journey with our guests as they share their real-life stories, lessons learned, business advice, and unfiltered insights to help you beat the school of hard knocks. Gearheads and Gasoline, fueling your success.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barry L. with Motorhead Digital, and my co-host is Annette Bauer with Annette Bauer Creative.
What's up, y'all?
Get ready for another awesome episode of Gearheads and Gasoline, as we're thrilled to have Mark Beatty from Redline Oil joining us today. Mark brings over 25 years experience in motorsports marketing, where he's currently the brand and marketing director for Redline Oil, and previously rocked it as the business development director for V-Gain's family of racing companies in Denver, Colorado. Mark has been a true race enthusiast since high school. Mark's journey includes working at Vandermeer Performance and even racing his first car, a 63.5 Falcon Sprint. He then shared a Super Comp dragster and worked with Joe Shalowski. Not sure if I pronounced that right. His passion for the track led him to announcing gigs at Vandermeer Speedway for over 9 years, making him a true authority in the racing world. We're pumped to have Mark on board, so let's dive in.
Wow, thank you very much. So, yeah, and Joe, it's one of those crazy last names or whatever. Not correcting you, Barry, but it's Shalkowski.
Shalkowski.
Yeah, he's just such a great guy, and his wife Nancy and stuff. So it's like we had a lot of fun together and stuff. But yeah, I used to say that all the time when I was announcing or whatever. I just used to warn everybody. It's like, look, I'm gonna get your name wrong, and 50% of the stuff that comes out of my mouth is not going to be accurate. It's up to you to figure out which 50% that is. So I used to warn everybody every time I announced. So it's like, yeah, it's tough. So no,
Yeah,
but once again, thank you, man. It's such an honor to be here and to be able to chat with you and Annette. It's awesome. I think we all have a incredible love and passion for the industry. So it's always fun when we can get together and just kind of share stories and talk about things. So seriously, thank you.
We're absolutely honored to have you here. And Mark, you and I go back quite a bit, and so I am super stoked. I'm a huge fan of yours, and every time that I can help promote what you do or just who you are and how you help the industry, I'm 100% down for it. So thanks so much for being a guest, and thanks for being our first guest, and we're excited to get into it.
Yeah, it only goes up from here, so you guys are good.
Well, fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
So now that we've learned a little bit about your history and where you come from, we have a pretty non-traditional question that we ask that breaks the ice and kind of gets us going in the right direction. And that question is, what is your favorite drink?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is. What is my favorite drink? I think for the most part, I'm a Mexican beer guy. That is almost always my go-to is Victoria is my favorite, closely followed by Sol. And or if I'm really in the mood for something, it's almost anything with vodka. I don't care. Put whatever you want. Put water wetter and vodka together, and it's a great drink. So
Water wetter. Okay.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a good idea. No, we're not going to advise.
Do not do that.
Yeah, this isn't made for children. Read the label first.
Yeah.
So yeah, my favorite. I'm a Corona guy, Modelo guy.
Man.
Definitely my favorite drink right now is an old fashioned. Friend of mine from Classic Recreations got me hooked
Yep.
up with that.
Yep.
And that's being boring actually right now.
They're good with
Yeah.
cigars. I'm a cigar guy, so old fashions are definitely good with cigars. So I'll
Oh,
give
cool.
you that.
So I am definitely on the boring side of both y'all because I am on a strict diet right now, so no alcohol for me. But going to your cigar statement, I actually had my first experience with like tasting and doing the whole thing with a cigar last year. We were in when we were in Indiana. That was different, super different. But yeah, it was like my first time. I was like, well, I'm gonna try it. Why not? And so yeah, it was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's we talked about my time with V Gaines and V is the one that kind of got me started on those. He had a really big liquor distribution business in Denver, and then we started distributing cigars as well. He had a really good friend that opened up a cigar store in downtown Denver, so we started importing and distributing cigars, and that was just like, okay, I'm hooked. It was crazy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome. I haven't had a cigar. I try them every once in a while, but haven't had an opportunity to partake. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think it's definitely like a learned thing, right? Like I think you got to do it kind of the right way and be with people who know how to do it the right way to really kind of get the best out of it.
you do, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's like anything. There's a lot of different flavors and a lot of different strengths to them. So you have to kind of find what's in your wheelhouse. I definitely like a lighter cigar and stuff. So I pretty selective. I've got my handful of favorites and stuff. But yeah, it's like a lot of things. You gotta find what you like if that's what you want to do.
preach, preach. Alrighty,
absolutely.
well, let's jump into some much cooler and better information. Not that cigars aren't cool, but so let's get talking about like some of the things that got you started, like where, how, all that good stuff. So if you would, for our audience, describe your journey from being a fan or an auto enthusiast to becoming so actively involved in, I'm not even going to say racing, I'm just going to say motorsports as a whole, because you virtually and quite literally have your hand in just about every type of
True.
motorsport that is out there.
My I got started at a really early age. It's kind of strange because nobody in my family, my dad or my grandpa or my uncle, nobody raced, and so it all started one Saturday that I was looking at a newspaper and I saw an ad in the newspaper for Bannerman Speedway, and this was I had just turned 16, so this was quite a few years ago, and so I went up to Bannerman on a Saturday, just something to do, and it was just a bracket race that they had going on, and um, you know, by the end of the day, I'd hooked up with a guy that had a bracket car by name of Jack Fico. Him and his girlfriend Sally raced a bracket car, and just kind of like the snot nosed kid that was kind of hanging around with them. And by the end of the day, Jack was saying, "Hey, bring me that water jug," or "Hey, go greet me that gas jug." And so I think I spent almost every Saturday in the summertime for the next 6 or 7 years going to Bannerman Speedway with Jack Fico and just enjoying it. I just got hooked, and so that led to job opportunities. One of my first jobs was, like we said, it was at Bannerman Speedway. They had parts stores, they had speed shops in Colorado. So I spent some time as a counter person there. And then one of my customers, they owned a company called Madcap Racing Engines, and so they kind of took me away from Bannerman, and I went and worked out at Madcap, and we were big in developing the 231 Buick V6 program for GM at the time. So we really got hooked at that point in time, and then started comp eliminator racing with Joe Shalkowski and Nancy and their BED, and it just blossomed. I then, I always wanted to letter race cars, but I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. So about that time, those machines came out, and vinyl cutters and plotters came out. So I bought one of those, and I was really excited about being able to letter race cars and do race cars. And before long, V Gaines, became my number one customer in that particular business, and that's how V and I's journey started together. He ultimately ended up buying me out, and we moved the sign and graphic company underneath his umbrella. And then V and I, started racing together. We started running comp cars as B Alter, and then ultimately, for 12 years, we were the Kendall Motor Oil Pro Stock Dodge. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things. I think I'm preaching to the choir here, you guys and gals and everybody that's watching. It's just, I tell my friends, it's like a cult, when you're a car person, man, something gets in your blood or something gets under your skin, and it just never, ever, ever goes away.
Ever.
And I think that's what makes it so special.
Right.
I mean, um, next to my family, my wife, my kids, and my friend network, without a doubt, is the biggest thing in my life. And my friend network is all built around motorsports or power sports or something with an engine. So
Yeah.
it's like, what a gift, right? And I don't know where else. I don't know anything else that has that, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that follow stick and ball sports and that
Right.
type of stuff, but man, I just don't think the connection or the camaraderie is there. There's something special about motorsports and power sports.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's, it's
I can
crazy.
attest to that. I went to trade school, but didn't go into it. And then quite a few years ago, we started Motorhead Digital and started going to SEMA, and that there. And it's like a big family. I mean, there's people I call up and it's just, hey brother, how's it going? It's awesome. I
Yeah.
totally get you on that for sure.
Well, and that's how you and I met and stuff, right? We're just kind of, I think you came by our booth at the SEMA show, and we just kind of started chatting, and it's just
Yeah.
like, it's it's like it's like somebody for years that you just met, when you can start talking about something as cool as race cars or performance cars or something in the
Right.
industry, right? You have that instant bond. And so, I think you and I connected instantly. It's just,
Yeah.
I think we were laughing and acting like I said, we'd known each other forever.
Well, I mean, I am really cool, so I mean, there's
You,
that.
you know,
But
you on the 1 to 10 cool scale, you're definitely pushing a 12. There's no question about that. So maybe I was just riding your coattails. Like,
stop,
I'm gonna hang out with the cool kids.
stop. But you're 100% correct. Like, I think and feel that like the industry, racing specifically for me, right, is such a huge, huge community, but it's so tight knit. And I actually didn't really understand how tight knit that community was until last year when I was out shooting for Street Outlaws. And I quite literally had a couple people who I didn't know from anybody who approached me and were like, "Oh, hey, you're Annette, you're that photographer, blah, blah." And I was like, I don't know who you are, but yeah, that's
Yeah,
like, wow, it's like super crazy. And so, yeah, like some of the greatest people, absolutely the greatest people that I could have ever hoped to have met, I've met through the motorsports industry. You clearly being one of those. Again, like I'm a huge fan of yours. And yeah, I could not have said all of that any better.
yeah. It's just the truth, and I appreciate the kind words. I mean, I think for me in the business world, and it goes back to even my time with V when we're out running pro stock, and you know it's everything that I try and do at Redline. It's one of those situations where I have always tried to lift those up around me, definitely more than myself, but even at times more than I do Redline, right? My
Hmm.
job is to put the brand out there, and my job is to increase sales through marketing and things like that. But, even to this day, I elect to do that through the people out there. We started this deal, Team Redline Oil, and it really, I said it one time as a joke, and I think I was talking to Steve Torrance, and I don't know, we were joking about something. I was like, "Yeah, Team Redline Oil," and stuff like that. He looked at me like I was mental, and stuff. But we kind of started laughing, and it was just like it just blossomed, in that. And so it's like I appreciate when people say nice things, but to me, I just deflect it to, man, all of the people that we have that fly our flag or carry our banner. Man, it's just this year alone. I think we have close to 500 teams or racers that we're supporting, one way or another, that are on quote unquote Team Redline Oil, from all walks of life, from
That's incredible.
from
Oh,
from
that's
little,
huge.
yeah, from little kids that are racing quarter midgets to kids that are racing electric e-bikes, to you name the category. And
Yeah.
it's like, we're heavily involved in all things power sports, all things motorsports, the drift world, the road race world, the drag race world, the circle track world, both dirt and pavement. I mean, you
Yep.
name it, and we're there. And for me, I tell everybody all the time, I got a great life because I have a front row seat to all the freaking cool stuff that they all do. Yeah, I'm lucky enough to understand, what they do with my racing background, and so we can have really great conversation. But man, I have the coolest seat in the house because of everything that everybody does around us.
Let me ask you this. I know that, like, I've been to more automotive events in the last 2 years than I've gone in a long time. And I'm curious how many events you go to every year, because it's really that face-to-face that I've learned, just even if it's having a beer, right? Going out and having a beer,
Yeah.
chatting about stuff,
That's I don't go to as many as what you think, to be perfectly honest
Really?
with you. I mean, I could go to an event every weekend and even double up weekends almost every weekend of the year, right? Because
Mhm.
because the way the power sports, the Arena Cross Series runs in November and December and January, so there is no time off,
Right.
for us. But not really the problem. The situation is at Redline is that I'm a one-man band. I am it. There's no cavalry. There's nothing behind me. So every time I escape and go to a racetrack, it just trying to play catch up is a challenge, big time. I made a post the other day or whatever. I think my inbox has 832 emails in it at the time, and stuff. And so,
Yeah, I think
so
I reached out to you and asked if you were going to the Gators, and you said, nope, not going
no,
to be there. I'm busy.
yeah, and
Feel
so
that.
I wish, I mean, I try and go to around 10-ish, every single year, and I try and break it up, fit in some power sport stuff, and obviously, the motorsports side of things. And then, lots of trade shows and stuff that we go to. So it's just, we do the best we can, but I also, I've always had that philosophy, especially like when I race pro stock with V and stuff like that. It's like our racers out there, that's their office, right? I mean, that's how a lot of them earn their living, or that's their business side of things. And so I talk about it all the time. It's like, I don't necessarily like a bunch of people standing around in my cubicle while I'm working, looking over my shoulder. And so I try and respect that. It's like, I go to the races enough to know that I care, you know, before every big race, I sit there and I'll text 30 or 40 racers and tell them, have a great weekend, be safe, stay safe, have fun. So I do a lot of the things that I can to talk with them without necessarily standing in their office every weekend,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
Because they're there for, like I said, they're there for a reason. So, Barry, I
They're
mean,
there to get a job done.
yeah, I mean, someday when I retire, I hope that every single weekend I'm somewhere at a racetrack, but right now it just not as often as you think. So
Nice.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Motorhead Digital. At Motorhead Digital, we are digital marketing experts for your automotive aftermarket, restoration, performance, race, and restyling shop. We help you supercharge your shop's website, social media, and entire online presence to attract those badass customers you're looking for.
I want to transition this a little bit. You answered actually a couple of questions already just by our conversation, which was awesome. You just led right through it 100%. That was super cool. But one of the things I do want to talk about is, let's talk about like the success of what that is, right? So when we're looking at the racing community as a whole, what do you feel sets that community apart from the industry? Meaning, like, what do you think makes it unique? What do you think has the rewarding, environment part of it? Like, I just think that there's so much in that we don't always see or talk about.
Yeah, because I think when you look at the motorsports industry as a whole, we talk about how it's we're all a close knit family, right? We all share something, we all have this passion, but there's things like in business. I don't care what you're in. There's certain things that you have to be. I mean, you clearly have to be a person of your word, right? Because we do a lot of hand holding and singing kumbaya, I tell everybody with a smile and stuff like that. Cause we do, cause we
Mhm.
love it. I mean, start a race car and watch everybody gather around just to watch a motor run. I mean, seriously, think about that,
Yeah.
or start a motorcycle, let a motorcycle warm up, and it's just crazy how we'll just stand there and stare at the thing while it's warming up, not doing
Right.
anything. So there's a lot of those moments that we share together, but you know, on the business side of things, you always have to remember you have to be a person of your word, right? Because if you're not, if you're saying one thing, doing another, V Gaines taught me a great saying in business that I use to this day, and it's the fact that I watch your feet, not your mouth.
Right.
Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do, right?
Right.
Be the person that you say you're going to be. And so, you know, I think in the motorsports world and the performance world, everybody just needs to be careful of that. We need to look out for one another. We need to, like I said, high tide rises all boats. So
Mhm.
so let's protect one another, and let's do the right thing together. Because when you're a part of that, I use the saying all the time: "Real knows real." I get
Mhm.
thousands of people coming to me wanting sponsorship, wanting this and wanting that, and so I get asked all the time. It's like, well, what's the first thing that you measure? And I said, very first thing I measure is real knows real.
Mhm.
You know, you can tell an authentic motorsports or power sports person by the first 10 words that come out of their mouth.
A
And
hundred
you can
percent.
and you can tell the other ones that don't. Now, it's not an insult to those that aren't, right? Because maybe they're in a journey right now where they want to get involved, but they don't know how, and things like that. So, you always try and be respectful of those. But then you got the ones that are just faking it a lot, and stuff. And so you need to be real, and real knows real,
Yeah.
because like you said, Annette, you shook your head instantly. It's like you can tell, right?
Yeah,
That it's
absolutely. And
it's the
I
real
think
deal.
that that's one of the cool things about, just the automotive industry as a whole, but especially for, like you and I in the motorsports part of it, like you said, the power sports part of it, is that there is an undescribable passion in somebody's voice, like somebody just lit a match when you start talking about something that you absolutely love, whether it's something that you love doing, you love helping, you love being a part of, whatever. There is an undescribable flame that lights as soon as that conversation happens.
Yep. No, there absolutely is. But when you look at motorsports as a whole, and allow me to go back to the racing side of things, and pick your flavor of racing. I don't really care. It Everything about our industry is built around the experience, right? It's
Mhm.
built around the smells and the sounds, and the excitement of being a part of something. It's not it'll never be something that's built to be watched
Right.
or live through your keyboard or your phone. Now, I mean, obviously there's times you have to do that, but it's I remember a long time ago when I had my sign and graphic company. I hired a couple of guys, and we actually started a location in Southern California, right across the street from Pomona Raceway. Neil Britt and Joe Martinez was their name, they both came from Hot Rod Magazine and National Dragster and stuff. Just
Nice.
friggin' great guys. So we sit around and laugh all the time. And they said that they were trying to put together an ad campaign, for the NHRA, and I think the tagline was something like, "You can feel it in your seat,"
Mm.
and you got to be careful in this day and age. People say that, but honestly, it's the truth, right? I mean, if you're sitting in the stands and a dirt modified goes by, or you sit in the stands when a top fuel car, leaves the starting line, or whatever the case may be, man, you can feel it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's something more to it, and I think that's the big difference in everything. It's like,
Oh,
man, there is something so special about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
We know so many people that we go, well, we're going to Gainesville, we're going to this racetrack, whatever. And they go, well, it's just drag racing, quarter mile. I says, when you're there, you just
Yeah.
feel it in your whole body, especially if
man.
you're right on the starting line, right? It's just insane. And it's hard to explain it to people.
Right, but you
Yeah.
bring up a really good point, Barry, which is like people who are not familiar with any given sport, right? But I'll use drag racing because that's my default, is that it is a black or white sport. And that's not a racism thing. That is flat out like you're either in or you're out, right? There is no gray area.
Mm.
There has been countless people that I have talked to that I've tried to explain racing to them, and they're like, nah, I don't really get it. I don't really care. Oh, you're in the gray area. No, you're in the flat black area because you just don't care. And that's okay, because not everybody is meant to be part of this industry, right? Because I think that we have a really special group of people who get to be here, to be a part of it, to get to contribute to it, and to get to help it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting. Mark, you talked about watching an engine run, right? Years ago, I took my niece to Maple Grove, and she'd never been to a race before. Ironically, she can ride her bike to the track now because that's where her and her husband lives, which makes me super jealous. But she would stand there while they're running a fuel motor, that nitro. It didn't bother her. I go, something is wrong with you, girl, because everybody else's are freaking eyes are tearing up, right?
Yeah.
So I remember that like it was yesterday.
It's one of my favorite things in life. There's no question about that. I had the opportunity this year and went to the Drag Illustrated Pro race in
Pro
Bradenton and
shootout.
stuff. So went to the pro shootout, and it's one of the things that they did is if you were one of the cars that didn't qualify and stuff, they kind of had they elected to kind of do a match race, and they turned it into dragster versus funny car. And so Wes and the folks of the track allowed me to go to the starting line and flip the switch for the very first pair of that.
Really?
It was Billy Torrance was running Ron Caps, and stuff. And it's crazy, right? Okay, I mean, I worked at Bannerman for 9 years. I spent a lot of times on the starting line of drag
Right.
strip, and I've been on a starting line of a drag strip when fuel cars have run and things like that. But it's like, this particular deal, they put together the program, and it was all in tribute to Don Schumacher, and Don was a wonderful man. I miss him. And so I'm up there trying to get ready to flip that switch, and I'm crying like a baby. I mean, it's friggin' crazy, and they snap some pictures of me and stuff, and I guess it's coming out in the next issue or whatever. But I'm up there flipping the switch, and so everybody's like going, "Well, the nitro got to you, huh?" I go, "Well, no, these tears are for Don Schumacher, but because everybody else is crying, like you said, when they fire up a nitro car, and it's always so funny because like when I'm at the races and hanging out with Steve, or even I was in Salinas's pit, they fire up the nitro cars. So funny. Everybody goes in front of the driver, right? Because the exhaust pipes go backwards. Then there's some dumb bald guy wearing a red line shirt that's standing in the back because it's just like I can't get enough of that smell.
Something is wrong with you.
Yeah, that's it's so funny. As Bobby Lagana says every time, he's like going, "Dude, what is wrong with you?" Nothing. I'm good.
You're right there with my niece because she'll stand right there on the rope, just sucking it in. And it's like, oh my God, girl. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Breathe through your mouth. You'll be fine. Breathe through your mouth.
Yeah, whatever. I friggin' love it all. So it's, but then I'm weird enough too. You go to a power sports race or motorcycle race or whatever, and there's something that, when they fire up those two-stroke motorcycles, I love the smell.
All
I
right.
love the smell of that. I love the smell of the heat coming off the motor and
Mhm.
that of a two-stroke motorcycle, or, one of my favorite smells. It's so crazy. It's like go to a circle track race and have a car come in, like a super modified or maybe a late model or something like that, come in off the track or whatever and go up to it. But I mean, you can smell the brakes, you can
Mhm.
smell the tire, you can smell, and stuff like that. It's just a great smell. It's like, I need to make all this cologne, and stuff. Because once again, it's like we keep saying, when you're in, you're in, and
that's like
I
when
don't
a
care
car
what it
goes by
is.
with, high octane race fuel, just
Yeah.
a muscle car, right? They're running,
Yep.
it's like, yeah, that's got
Yep.
race gas in it. I can
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah, that's like, what a great way to wake up in the morning, smelling that. So,
Well,
yeah,
that
no
is what we
doubt.
say every time we're at the racetrack. So,
Yeah, it's the truth.
it is. It is. So let's talk a little bit about some challenges and opportunities. So, what do you believe is or are the biggest challenges and opportunities that face the racing industry today, and how to navigate those?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges in all of motorsports or power sports or even the automotive industry is we all need to be paying close attention to some of the rules and regulations and some of the laws that are trying to be passed. There's
Right.
there's ample opportunities to where we can sign petitions and stay involved and talk, about that. It's one of those ones where, as a society, I mean, obviously anything political is an amazing hot topic, and,
Right.
over X amount of years, it's really destroyed a lot of friendships. But it's like you got to kind of put some of that in the back pocket and just understand and look at the industry and say, hey, if we want to keep this deal going, there are times that we are going to have to step up, no matter how uncomfortable it may or may not be. Step up and do the right thing and stay involved. So, then on top of that, of course, all of us, I mean, Redline Oil, for example, is owned by Phillips 66. So,
Hmm.
we're a publicly traded company. And so, as leadership in that company looks at forward facing things, they look at things 2, 3, 4 years, down the road. And so that's kind of how they set budgets, or they set spending patterns and set things along those lines or whatever. So, everybody, we all have to keep a close eye on the economy, side
Hmm.
of things. It's brief story. It's like, let's if you flash back, I don't know, let's pick a number. Let's say 10 years ago, you know if you were a speed parts manufacturer, or you were an aftermarket manufacturer, you know costs were down and inventory was up, and our conversation was always, oh man, this racing crowd is getting older, and when they die off, no young people are getting involved in the sport, and so we're going to be left with all this extra inventory because
Right.
nobody's buying the stuff anymore. Nobody's buying the stuff anymore. Then all of a sudden COVID hits and the world goes crazy. And the next thing we know, we're waking up, and manufacturers or people are saying, well, I can't make enough of it.
Right.
Everybody's out, everybody's out,
Yeah.
everybody's out. And so, then you're worried that you can't get raw material. Well, if I can't get raw material, I can't make parts. So does that mean I'm going to go out of business because I can't get material, and I have more orders for stuff that I know what to do with? And so it's like,
Yeah.
my point to that is that almost in a blink of an eye, it can change, right? I mean, who would have ever thought 10 years ago that there was such a demand for racing parts that manufacturers couldn't keep up with it, right?
Right.
I mean, it's just like
Right.
10 years ago, they looked at you like, what are you drinking?
Yeah,
It's
100%.
crazy. I want one of those old fashions. That's for you, Barry. But but it's nuts. And so I think the challenges in the industry is the fact that you need to be forward thinking and keep an eye on the future, because
Mhm.
you have to be able to adapt to it and change and get ready for what may or may not be coming down the pike. I mean, right now, I don't know that there has ever been a better time to be involved in motorsports or power sports. I mean, I don't
Right.
care. All you have to do is go to any event anywhere, and look at the crowds, look at the
Yeah.
fans, look at the amount of participants. I don't think anybody saw this coming. It is a spectacular time to be in the industry that we're in.
It's interesting because I remember as a big NHRA fan reading articles like, is NHRA dying? We've lost a lot of tracks, and
Right?
we're still losing tracks, but some new tracks are being built. And also with everything going on with Wes Buck's doing, and he point blank said, I'm not here to compete with NHRA. It's another thing. I think that's amazing. And all the NPK stuff's going on. On the drag racing side, I'm super excited because I was worried myself because I'm a huge fan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then you talk about we're all, once again, they're saying that we're all dying off. There's no young kids and stuff. And once again, I beg to differ.
Mhm.
Go to an event. You don't think there's young people involved in motorsports and power sports?
Right.
I'm sorry. Go to a supercross event in the motorcycle world or whatever. There are more folks there that are probably under 16 than there are over 16 times two,
Right.
almost, or
Really?
whatever. I
Wow.
mean,
I
it's
mean, when
it's crazy. It's awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just a great time to do what we do.
Gainesville was packed, we were there just Friday, but there was a lot of young people there, and I was really excited to see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, and once again, and that's like we keep talking about, that's a credit to all of us, right?
Yeah. We all bear
Because
a responsibility.
we're the ones hopefully bringing those people, or we're the ones that are talking about it or building the
Mhm.
excitement for it. And we're,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, the NPK, deal on Discovery, it's like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to lie, when that first came out a long, long time ago or whatever, God, don't judge me now, but I was a little bit against that. But
I don't think
see,
you were alone.
I was against it
Same
because
here.
because I didn't like the fact that they showed, in my opinion, they showed the worst of the people because they wanted to show everybody fighting and yelling and screaming at their
Right.
trailer, right?
Right.
Made for great TV,
Right.
but to me initially what I thought is, well, that's just playing into the stereotype, because stereotype was that racers were always greasy, grimy fighters, and they weren't quality people and stuff. So that TV show started, and I kind of hung my head, kind of going, man, all we're doing is just reinforcing
Right.
those beliefs that people have. But I think now, I mean, I'm no thinking about it, I've definitely changed my opinion of it. I think NPK has altered, the course for all
Yeah.
motorsports, all motorsports that want to wrap their hands and their fingers around it, and obviously on a personal note, I mean, Lizzie, Musey,
Mhm.
Lizzie is oh boy,
She's a warrior.
she's a daughter to
Mhm.
us. Her dad Pat and I go back many, many, many years, and every time, well, not every time, but a lot of times when Lizzie comes to town, she's having her treatments here in Houston or
Mhm.
whatever, we'll go pick her up, and we'll take her around, and she'll spend some time with us here at the house. And um man, there's something amazingly special about that young lady. It's
Yeah.
just crazy. And so, I like the fact that she's out there, and without street outlaws, maybe her story wouldn't be getting told, the way
Right.
it's potentially getting told and stuff. So they've done a lot of, like I said, a lot of good things. It was just interesting for me because, like I said, when it first came out, it was like, oh no, we don't need this.
Well, I mean, the great thing is that, like all of us within the automotive industry, and especially as the racing side of it, is that we always continually need to look for ways to re-innovate ourselves, right? And to
Hmm.
keep the spirit of the sport alive. Like you hear Wes talk about that all the time, right? We super love what we do. We super love who we get to do it with. But that means that we can't always do the same thing every day, day in and day out. We've got to find new ways to bring in new generations, to bring in new excitement. And that
Yep.
means, okay, maybe we do need to try something a little bit different that's off of what we typically would do. And maybe it's not going to resonate with everybody, but give it a chance and see where it goes and see who we can get involved in it, right? Because I think that as we brought in, we've stuff like the Street Outlaws, that we opened it up to a different demographic of people who had been NHRA fans for decades, but have kind of had like, well, I want to see something a little bit different. I don't always just want to see the pros. I want to see sportsman categories. I want to see somebody who's just like me, right? Because as much as I love any one of those pros out there, the truth about it is that my budget is not the same as their budget, right? I
Yep.
can't go test every weekend. I don't have the best of the best. And so although I can be a fan of that person and appreciate and respect what they do, I don't necessarily resonate with them, other than that we have a common thread of loving drag racing, right? But you
Yep.
take somebody who is just grassroots like I am, it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different story, and that connection is a whole different level.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think when you talk drag racing, I mean, how fortunate is drag racing to have, Wes Buck and his soapbox? Because
Mm-hmm.
I say it all the time. When people approach me about Red Line, it's like, well, you're heavily involved in drag racing, et cetera, et cetera. And it says, no, I mean, I'm equally involved in everything, but
Right.
we're fortunate in drag racing that we have this unified voice in Wes Buck that's willing to color outside the lines. I mean, honestly, you think, and I'm not dishing one bit on this deal, but you look at the NASCAR, let's talk the upper levels of NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little stagnant, right?
Right.
And so you think to yourself, it's like, okay, what if fun all the levels of NASCAR racing, maybe not the big ones, but there was a Wes Buck in the circle track world that was grabbing everybody and putting them together and say, hey, let's go figure out how to do some things different here and there. What if
Right.
there was, road racing is a perfect example, the SCCA, phenomenal organization, right? But SCCA is so segmented by
Mm-hmm.
regions, by areas. Some of them are parking lot events, some of them are timed
Right.
events, some of them are this, some of them are that. And there's no voice out there. I mean,
Right.
it's like, come on, somebody step up and do for road racing what Wes is trying to do for drag racing. Do for circle track racing
Yeah.
what Wes is trying to do. Because like you said, Wes is the guy that's, okay, let's color outside the lines. Let's try this. Let's see what this is. Let's see what that is. He's not trying to reinvent drag racing. He's not making
Yeah.
the cars run in reverse. He's not, or
Right.
he's just trying to tweak what's there to not let it get stagnant. And at
Right.
some point in time, I think somebody in all forms of racing is going to grab a hold of that and say, yeah, I want to be the West Buck of this or West Buck of that or West Buck,
Yeah,
because
it
Yeah.
literally takes somebody
it
with a
does.
personality
It
to
does.
be, and know, like, this is no dig on Wes, because I dig how much he has passion for what we do, but have a personality big enough to be a big mouth and talk about why you need to be here, what you need to do to contribute to it, how you need to get involved in it, like how you can get started in your own passion for it, right? We need somebody who's got a big mouth like Wes and all those
Yep.
other genres that you're talking about, and keep motorsports alive, keep power sports alive, keep the automotive industry alive.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
And I
I
can see, sorry,
no, go
um,
for it.
the I'm involved with I sponsor a truck for the Optima Ultimate Streetcar Challenge. A lot of those are grassroots guys building in their garage. As they move forward and stay in it, they get more technical, more money goes into it, right?
Mhm.
And then you have the drag and drive guys, right? We're in the process, one of my team members, of building a car for that. I think that's huge, right? It's
Yep.
very grassroots. you do have a lot of other things like that cropping up, right? That the average Joe can get into, which I think is cool, and that may lead them into other stuff, right?
Absolutely, and I love that word. It's funny in my circle of brand director or director of marketing. There's certain
The Grand
industry
Poobah.
certain no, there's just certain industries and areas to where when they say grassroots, it's almost like they're talking down their nose, right?
Right.
Because in this day and age, it's geofencing and this, you so on and so on and so on. And it's just like
Yeah.
going, yeah, but you know what? That's because you don't understand motorsports and power sports. Because in motorsports and power sports, grassroots marketing is not old fashioned. It's not.
Right.
It's the way things get done. It's how we talk. It's
Yep.
it's real knows real.
Yep.
Right, and that's what
1000%.
it is. Not a negative. It's not outdated. I wear that, because I hear that all the time. Well, how come all you do is grassroots stuff? Because it's awesome. Thank you very much. I'm not awesome. It's awesome, but thank you
That's
very
not
much.
true.
It's very much done on purpose. It's
Yeah.
not a negative thing. And so yeah, when you talk about drag and drive, and they've got that kid by the name of Michael Narks, and I love Michael because
Mhm.
he's trying to take he's trying to be the West Buck of drag and drive,
Mhm.
and I love that kid, and you know what? I think he's going to succeed. I mean, so that's exactly what we're talking about, Barry. It's like somebody got in that arena and said, all right, I'm going to loop all of you together. I don't care if it's Rocky Mountain Race Week. I don't care if it's Hot Rod Power. I don't care what it is. If it's a drag and drive type of event, I'm going to cover it. I'm going to talk about it. And he's doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I am actually super excited. I get to cover my first drag and drive this year, so I'm stoked.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which one? Don't mind me
Redwood
asking.
Rally, actually. So
Very cool.
Heather and Jesse, they asked me earlier this year if that was something I'd be interested in, and I was like, "What? Heck yes, I would love
Yeah.
to. I just think that's going to be so fun."
Yeah, it's friggin' awesome. So that's, like I said, it's what we all need to do. Just let's keep this thing going. It's a great time to be involved.
Agreed. Man, I think that we've had just some incredible conversation, and I am super stoked that you are our first guest because one, it's just so easy and so natural to talk with you and to chat about things that we're both extremely passionate about, and I love that opportunity. As we look forward to like how everything that we've talked about and the industry as a whole, let's talk a little bit about some business advice from like the School of Hard Knocks, right? Like, how can teams and drivers demonstrate their value? And this is, again, going right back to what you said you get questions about all the time. Demonstrate their value to sponsors beyond track performance, meaning like, it's not just winning all the time. That's not what sponsorship is all about. So can you talk a little bit about that?
You're right. Like in my world, I mean, obviously winning is why they do what they do and why we do what we do, right? And so it holds merit, but I've never based a decision, around helping supporting a team based on a win-loss record. For me, I always go back to one of the first lessons I learned, in business, when I had first opened up my sign shop. And well, it's a long story, and I'll keep it abbreviated. But I was fortunate enough to do a job for the Denver Nuggets, and then I went on to become official sign company for the Nuggets, Avalanche, and the Denver Broncos.
Nice.
But I was dealing with the Nuggets, and the first job I did, before they would pay me, they made me buy a season ticket. Well, at that particular point in time, honestly, I was washing my clothes in a bathtub, and I was hanging them to dry because I couldn't even afford to go to a laundromat,
Right.
And stuff like that. But where I'm going with that is the lesson that it taught me is their whole point is they do business with those that do business with them. And so for me, when people come and talk to me about sponsorship, hey, sponsor me, hey, do this, hey, do this, hey, do this. And like I said, I get a lot of them. One of the very first questions I ever ask is, what red line product are you running?
Right.
and obviously if they say they're not, it doesn't necessarily eliminate them from me,
Right.
but it's kind of like going, well, I got a great idea. Why don't you go buy our product, for a while? Why don't you run our product?
Mhm.
Why don't you see how good it is, and then come back and talk to me next year,
Right.
and we can talk about something, because if you don't care about our product enough to buy it, why would I care enough to do something,
To help
with
your
you,
program.
type of deal? So that sounds very, very harsh, and hopefully folks know I'm not that cut and dry, but it honestly is one of those measurement deals, because everybody comes up to me and talks to me about how great their social media following is, how
Right.
great this is, how great that is, I mean, everybody, and I'm when I say that, I'm not making fun of anybody. I was on that side of the fence. I mean, I put together the sponsorship, and that was my deal with V Gaines and the Pro Stock team. That was my responsibility. I put together that Kendall deal.
Right.
So I've had to sell race car sponsorship a lot. And so
Yeah.
I know how tough it is. And I understand that when a person's standing in front of me, pitching me their program, they honestly believe in what they're pitching, right? It's their
Mhm.
heart and their soul. It's their
Mhm.
passion. It's how they spend their disposable income. I get it and I respect it. But as a brand, I have to be one or two layers removed from that, because I have my responsibilities too. So, I always tell folks out there that, if you're going to go knock on somebody's door, and try and do that, it's first and foremost, be a customer of
Yeah.
theirs if you can. I mean, that's because then all of a sudden you can offer a true, authentic, real nose real, you know, conversation about the product,
Right.
or about that partnership or that association that you're doing them, because it's real and stuff. So I think
Yeah.
that's really critical for everybody to do that.
Yeah, I educate my clients all the time, right? And you and I have had this conversation before, is that a lot of drivers and teams, they tend to overlook some really important elements when it comes to, going to look for a sponsorship, right? So this isn't just a handout, that's a business. They've got goals, they've got, things that they have to meet, and they have to account for every bit of that dollar spend.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that means that as somebody who's coming to them asking for a sponsorship, what problem are you solving for that company? How are you going to
yeah,
help them? And that could be a number of things, right? So maybe the company is rolling out a new program, maybe they're rolling out a new product, maybe, they're just trying to get a few people to sign up for a newsletter, like whatever it is.
right.
But come to the table with a solution. Don't just come out with your hand and say, like, well, hey, I'm racing. Don't you want to give me money? Because
It,
that's not real, right?
yeah, and I'll put a decal on your decal on my car, and stuff. And so, because what a lot of people don't know, and it's y- don't tell anybody, no, but what a lot of people don't know is the fact that as Redline Oil, I can tell you right now, there are two teams and two teams only in all. And we've
Mhm.
talking about motorsports, we're talking about power sports,
Mhm.
there are two teams and two teams only that get any monetary support out of
Mhm.
Redline Oil.
Mhm.
And it has way more to do with other aspects of the business than it does with what you think. So the majority of teams out there, they're on some type of a product deal only. And so,
Mhm.
I had that conversation before, and I think most of the time that's relatively common in most of these industries and stuff, that if you're looking for tires, most tire companies don't give you money. You kind of
Right.
get on some type of a tire deal. Oil
Right.
companies, you get on an oil deal. Fuel companies, you get on a fuel deal. So
Yep.
so some of those consumables that you go through all the time or whatever, it's tough as a racer. I tell you, it's hard to go to those companies and say, give me money, give me money,
Right.
give me money, because
Right.
it doesn't necessarily work that way. Now, if it's not a consumable, if it's somebody that's making solar panels or the siding of a building or things like that, that's a different story. Those are the type of companies that have monetary programs in
Right.
place. But for me, even when I give a product discount type program or something like that, it still costs me money,
Yeah.
because in my marketing world, I still have to pay for the difference, and stuff. So everything out there has a cost to somebody, right?
Yeah.
And as a racer, if especially if you're a business person and a racer, you understand that. And so the rules aren't any different for me than what it is for anybody else and stuff. And so I really enjoy when racers will come to me and have that conversation. And I had a big pro mod team reach out to me last week. And he called me, and his daughter's just getting into pro stock racing. Her first race was at Pomona or whatever, but he called and he says, Mark, says, the first words out of his mouth, he says, let me be perfectly clear. I don't want anything from you for free, but I really enjoy and we really love what you're doing for the sport of drag
Right.
racing, and we want to run your product in our cars and stuff.
Nice.
And so instantly that the conversation is being held on a business to business
Yeah.
level, right? And so now all of a sudden my respect for this deal is like going, okay, now this is a team, this is a person that I'm excited about, because we're going to maybe start here this year, and next year maybe a little different, and so on and so forth, because it's a business person that understands the challenges
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And so as if you're a team out there looking for things or whatever, just understand nothing is free
Right.
for any of us.
Right.
So
Yeah. An example that I give a couple of my clients who, kind of want to go on that basis of, well, like, I'm giving them exposure, and I'm like, okay, let me give you an example of something, right? Let's just take Ford Motor Company as an example, right? You go to Ford and you say, hey, I want you to give me X amount of dollars or discounts on cars or whatever it might be. And you tell them, I'm going to put your logo on my trailer. I'm going to put it on my uniforms. I'm going to put it on my, all my swag, all of my materials, blah, blah, blah. Fantastic. Ford is never going to call you back. And you want to know why? Because Ford already has their logo on 2 places of every Ford vehicle out on the freaking road.
right.
So do they care about exposure? Hell freaking no, they don't. Go to
Yeah.
the table with whatever you can resolve a problem for them. Be a solution.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And once again, it's not that you're dishing on racers, right? Because
No.
we only have what we have,
Yep.
right? We only we and so we're just trying to use what we have in the best way that we can. But manage your expectations at that point
Yeah.
in time, right? And just
Yep.
understand that it is what it is,
Yeah.
and stuff. And you're right. It's tough. It's super tough. So but I try. I mean, we try really hard as a brand to find a way to work with the majority of folks that do something, or want to do something. We try.
Yeah, you guys do a phenomenal job at it. Like, I watch your guys' social media all the time, and I love what you guys are doing. I love that quite virtually every single race that I go to, every single track that I've been to, there is somebody who's got Redline oil in something that they run, whether it's, their race car or their push car or whatever it might be. And I just kind of have to giggle to myself because I just love it. I absolutely love it.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Netbauer Creative. At a Netbauer Creative, we understand the power of visual storytelling in transforming brands and driving growth, from capturing the essence of your products and services to showcasing the unique solutions they offer. Our professional imagery and reels help bring your brand to life.
We obviously know that social media is one of the easiest, cheapest, free forms to be able to advertise and push your message. But what do you feel like that plays in attaining and retaining sponsorships?
I think probably I love that word, retaining sponsorships. I think if a team is going in and that's their number one bullet point to get sponsorship, uh, that's a bit of a challenge, right?
Right.
I mean, because as a brand, obviously, I focus very hard on our own social media channels, and we have relatively large following and relatively
Mhm.
large channeling and stuff like that. And so so if, once again, as a team, if you're leading off with that, I don't know, but once you found that way in to retain Absolutely. I mean, my job, for example, it's the truth. It's nothing for me to put in 60 or 70 hours a week.
Right.
So, am I at a welder welding pipes together 60 or 70 hours a week? No, my job is my job, but it's just like almost any and every downtime that I am definitely looking for and searching out teams that are on Team Redline Oil.
Mm-hmm.
And are you tagging us? Are you talking about us? Are you at least minimally acting like you're glad to be on the team?
Right.
And those that aren't, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Next year you won't be.
Right.
Okay, problem solved. It's no disrespect, but nope. But those that are, you're right, Annette. Then the next year when we start looking at things or whatever, we're talking to them. It's like, yeah, you know what? I can remember you put forth that effort.
Yeah.
I mean, social media is one of those crazy things, right? It doesn't cost anybody anything to do it, and so from now my standpoint, and when I ran the program for V Gains. And I was crazy on social media for V Gains because it didn't cost me anything to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
all it was doing was benefiting Kendall Motor Oil.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't I?
Right.
I mean, it's just like, come on. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. It doesn't cost you anything, to do that for whoever is helping you, whoever is sponsoring you. So just do it.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
crazy part is, I will tell you, and this is for our audience, any of our listeners to really take into heart and this, again, just isn't just isolating racers. This is as a whole, any product, service that you're pushing, company, brand, whatnot, is that I personally had a team approach me and say they lost all of their sponsors. This going back to what you said, Mark, from last year because they didn't have social media. And that was exactly what the sponsor said to them. They said, we're pulling all of our sponsorship because you don't have social media. You don't talk about the product, the service, our company, your wins, your losses, the culture, nothing, right? You don't share any of that stuff with your audience. And so in our conversation, he said, I guess I'm not a social media person. I don't really understand what the value is. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, at that last event that you were at, how many people were there? And he said, and they said that there was like 136,000 people. And I said, 136,000 people care about social media. I said, so whether you believe it or you don't believe it, 136,000 people were looking for a way to connect with somebody, to be involved in something, and to just have some kind of insight as to being something bigger than themselves. I was like, so when in reality, being on social media does have a huge value.
Yeah, these days, everybody holding that camera up isn't just taking a picture.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing live video. They're sharing it out
Sure.
during the event, after the event, things like that. So absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Barry. And and I get it. It's like we all know. I mean, social media can be ugly, right? I mean, it can be, but it's only as ugly as what you want it to be. And I tell people that all the time. It's like, well, I'm sorry, you control your friend list. You control, your things that pop up on your timeline. You have the ability to delete and get rid of certain things and stuff like that. And so, I love all of my social media because it's full of nothing but race car stuff and motorcycle racing stuff. I mean, every once in a while I get some random thing popping up or whatever. It takes me 2 seconds to delete it, block it. It's gone. I mean, it's whatever. It's part of the deal. And stuff.
And if you
stuff
don't like
that.
it, keep scrolling.
Yeah,
It's
never keep going, stop, and stuff. But yeah, it's crazy because it's like we talked before. As a brand, it's like so you get a decal on a car. Okay, okay, it's like Ford. I already got badges on cars. Okay, so it is that experience, side of things that social media brings. I tell people all the time, it's like, and I kicked it off, at one point in time, V in the NHRA, we had the second largest Facebook following in all of the NHRA, and here's V Gaines, just a pro stock guy out of Denver, right? And I mean, the only one that was ahead of us at the time was John Force.
Right.
and then Coletta jumped on and got really, really big. But, my whole philosophy when I was doing everything for V is the fact that I was using social media what it's designed for. I'm taking people where they can't normally go. So I'm
100%.
I'm constantly taking them into V's trailer. I'm constantly taking them up into V's lounge.
Yeah.
Talking with V. I'm constantly taking them into the engine shop. It's like
Yep.
places that you don't normally get to go,
Yep.
and stuff. And so it's just
That's cool.
it's such a powerful tool when used the right way.
And those are the teams that I follow the most, where I learn the most. I see more
Well,
things
yeah.
than I would just a bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes use it for what it's worth and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's. But anyway, I hope that answers your question. It's not the thing you should ever lead off on, but boy, it'll definitely be that thing that'll cost you if
Right.
you're ever in the right place.
Yep. Agreed. 100% agreed.
Yep.
I think you brought some super insightful information and just shared some really good tips and tricks, and looking at like the bulk of the conversation that we have had, would you offer, or do you have any tips or advice for any of our audience that are out there, and just in general, like as it applies to the motorsports, power sports world?
We kind of touched on it before, and that's the fact that the industries that we're in between power sports, motorsports, anything automotive. Let's talk car shows. Let's talk drag and drives. I don't care whatever you talk about. These are things that you have to go out and experience. I cannot emphasize that enough. You can't live vicariously through your neighbor that's out
Right.
doing it, or your friend that's out doing it. I tell people all the time, it's like shut your phone off for 2 hours and go to an event. Go out there and experience what everybody's talking about. And Annette, it's like we talked on it. It may not be your deal, right?
Right.
But I'm sorry, what if it is?
Yeah.
What if it is, and that one trip to whatever event changes your life, like that Saturday morning I went to Bannerman Speedway out of the blue. That changed my life and stuff. And so I just tell people all the time, just get out there and go. Go try something. Go do something. Go be a part of something.
Yeah.
And when I worked at Bannerman Speedway and I helped at KRP, to me, when I talk about racetracks and I talk about venues and stuff like that, I tell them all the time. Now, racetrack or venue, you have a huge responsibility, because I don't care if there's 10 people walking through your gate or if there's 10,000 people walking through your gate. You don't have any idea how many of those are first timers, right?
Oh, right.
And so you as a facility are actually controlling the growth or the destiny or the future of our sport. Because if people go to your facility and porta potties are dirty, or concession stands are a mess, or this, that, or the other thing, or whatever, what if somebody has a horrible experience because of that and never ever decides to go back to an event? So your racetrack or your venue is never too small to do the right things. It's never too small to not pick up the trash, to not make sure the bathrooms are clean, to not make sure, it doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal of anything, right? But
care.
I tell that all the time to the facility people. It's like, look, you're a big part of all of this that we're trying to do, because if all of us in this industry do all these crazy good things, but it's a bad experience at a racetrack.
Yeah, I got a couple stories for you on that. Yeah, it's. I had a friend email me. He says, "I'll never go back to that track. They didn't have enough bathrooms. It was nasty." And then another, it was one at Penske he bought. He's involved with Indianapolis Motor Speedway now, right? And his second in charge said, Roger walked that whole track, walked the bathrooms, pointed out all sorts of things that had to be, he says, fix that, fix that, fix that. And because he knew that the experience of the people at the track mattered.
Yep. Very first time I had the opportunity to announce at KRP, which is Kearney Raceway Park in Kearney, Nebraska, they have a really big event every July. And so I think I was up there at a couple of small events, and then I was getting ready to go up there for the big event. And for a small racetrack, I mean, the whole city or the whole town gets involved, and they have a big car show, and they have a big cruise and all that other type of stuff. And then it all ends on a Saturday night at the racetrack. And I had booked in my buddy Ed the Outlaw Jones and his wheel stander and stuff like that. So anyway, it's like Wednesday of that week, and I'm doing that. I'm walking around the facility, and I walk by the grandstands, and the grandstands are peeling. The paint's peeling up. They're
Mm.
just friggin' miserable. And sure enough, I went to the store and I bought paint, and I spent the next 2 days painting the grandstands at that racetrack
Oh my
on
gosh.
my own, because
wow.
it's just like we're not going to have people come to this facility. I'm not going to have Ed the Outlaw Jones bring in all of these people that have never seen anything like that before, and people not want to sit on the bleachers because the friggin' paint was peeling and it was horrible. So
Wow.
I probably put in 20 hours a day, 2 days in a row, trying to get those grandstands. But it
That's
mattered. It's
incredible.
just one of those. It just mattered to me, right?
Yeah.
It's not an insult on KRP. I mean, it
Oh,
was managed by some wonderful, wonderful people, but you don't know what you don't know.
right.
And I think they had always concentrated so hard on the racing surface. It was a great
Right.
racing surface and all that other type of stuff. And so, I came in with just a different set of eyes, and it's like, okay, I'm going to look at this from a spectator standpoint and not so much from a racer standpoint,
Right.
and
Right.
stuff. And so that's when we made a good combination. But yeah, it matters. So
It
facility
does
owners,
matter.
I'm telling you, it matters.
Yep. 100%. I, yeah,
Yep.
it does matter. It absolutely matters. So last question for you, Mark. Think about everything that you've learned in your life up till now, and knowing that we've talked a lot about how we can influence or impact the next generation, but kind of looking at it from a perspective of, if you were to give advice today, knowing what, like take the younger you and give, you today, give that younger you advice, like what would that be?
Oh man, grow up and be a net.
No, don't do that.
Oh man. Wow, that's okay. Hang on, let me think about that. What advice would I give a younger
The younger
me?
you.
Wow, man! Every time I think about that, it gets really deep and personal. And so it's just, it's one of those ones that I mean, honestly, I mean, nobody gets this and nobody understands this. But I've spent my entire life struggling profusely with self-confidence. It's a disease worse than alcoholism
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And so when I think about your question, it's just, I just, man, you trust yourself. I mean, if you're a young person and maybe you're the type of person that loves to color outside the lines, you don't want to follow maybe in a family member's
Mm-hmm.
footsteps or do what some think maybe you ought to do, and you're going to walk that path. You have to learn to trust yourself. I can't emphasize that enough, because if not, life can be a challenge.
Right. Yeah. And it is okay to not walk or toe the line, right? It's okay not to follow in the family footsteps and take a risk, right? And kind of, like you said, go outside the lines. It's okay to do that. But you have to
Absolutely.
trust yourself.
I think we talk about that. I talk about that in business all the time. When I owned, a lot of the businesses that I had, and then ran the ones for V Gaines or whatever, is that we always smiled. You always need that person that's going to step up to the plate and want to swing for a grand slam, right? we can't all be base hitters. Now, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong with getting base hits. Lots of base hits win baseball games.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're compelled to be that person to swing for a grand slam, you're going to do it different than everybody else. You're going to set your own path. You're going to blaze your own trail. You're going to dye your hair pink. Go for it. Be that person. There's nothing wrong with that.
True. So true. I have to keep that in mind when I go see my hairdresser.
Sorry. Barry, I was trying to find a way to pick on you, but I just couldn't think of one.
Yeah, well, you may still have time. So, yeah. So, as we begin to wrap up today's podcast, we want to recap some lessons learned and advice Mark mentioned. I made some notes here, and the one is the real knows real. It's like, holy crap, because I've lived that. You can tell if somebody's real, right? And that's huge. We have a core value in our company. It's called carry your own bag. And you mentioned about what V-Gaines said. I didn't write it down, but about walking with your feet or whatever. Just
watch a person's feet, not their mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
What they're doing, right? How they're do they back up what they say, kind of thing, right?
Absolutely.
And then I do like, what you said about they do business with people that do business with them, right? It works both ways, right? You can't expect somebody, a company, whatever, just to say, here you go, right? In this day and age, you definitely can't just stick a sticker on a car and expect money or product or whatever. The last one is trust yourself. You just said that. I'm the same way. There's a lot of things over the years that I've kind of held off on because I was like, like it took 2 years to get this going. So, and then the biggest advice is Mexican beer.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Drink Mexican beer. Put a lime in there and go.
Okay. 5 o'clock somewhere, so we all need to open one.
Absolutely. So, Mark, we have a speed round here. These are quick hit questions.
Off the cuff. Don't think too much about it.
Yeah. Business habit that contributes to your success.
Always working.
Always working. Love it. What's the best advice you've ever received and from who?
V-Gaines, if you're facing a challenge, put your head down and work your way through it.
Nice.
Sweet. Love that. And last one is, what's your favorite race driver or team, hot rod, muscle car, or truck?
Okay, I'm going to stay away from team or racer because
I kind of figured you might.
I have so many of them or whatever. My favorite car, without a doubt, was my oh man, I was a Volkswagen guy for a long time. I built a '66 Volkswagen bus that I slammed and put a 2380 motor in it, stuff like that. And I love that friggin' Volkswagen bus. It was either my Volkswagen bus or I did a 1954 Pininfarina Nash. That I tubbed and put a narrow 9-inch Ford in and a crate motor and stuff like that. So those are my favorite cars that were.
I like it when I hear Nash. My first car was a '63 Rambler Ambassador station wagon. So
there you go. But man, wouldn't it be cool to have that thing back?
I've been looking. I cannot find it. I just can't. My wife wouldn't like it though. But anyways, yeah. So. Hey, so everyone, that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you, Mark, for joining us today. Mark, remind listeners where they can connect with you, find you, and even chat with you if they'd like.
Hey, the easiest thing to do is always, if you're looking for some of our incredible products that, I just totally believe in, check us out at redlineoil.com. Other than that, just find us on social media, Redline either on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn. I happen to run all those pages for us and stuff. So, if you have a question, reach out there. I'll get back in touch with you. I honestly work really, really hard at trying to respond to everybody clearly, except for my emails. Sorry.
Well, we'll make sure to get all that information in the show notes.
Don't email me.
Yeah.
Come on, don't you want another 800 emails? It's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally
Yeah.
fine.
Hey, and before I go, I'd just like to give a shout out to a man and a family that means the world to me, and that's Mike Salinas. Mr. Mike is kind of having some medical things take place right now, and very fortunate that Jasmine can climb in his top fuel car and kind of fill his seat, and there's something very, very special about Jasmine. So all the confidence in the world, but the entire family, they are incredible. So before I go, I just want Mike to know if he happens to watch this, and it's like thinking about you, and thanks, Mike, for who you are, because you make us all better, my friend.
Hands down, Mike is a great guy.
Absolutely.
I had an incredible opportunity to be able to meet him, gosh, many, many, many years ago. And, like he'd come out, this is before he even went into NHRA, like he'd come out down to Bakersfield and do a lot of testing with his family. And I always just remember being so like just mesmerized by his whole operation that would come in. Like, Barry, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his rigs, but the man is absolutely
I've seen him at the track.
Ridiculous. And that has never changed. Like from the very first time I've ever met Mike and all his family up until today, like his stuff is always meticulous. He is hands down one of the greatest, sweetest guys I have ever met.
Yeah, I watched from afar, right? A lot of stuff on TV, but listened to every bit of it, listened to interviews of him, and I'm very inspired for his entrepreneurship, and all that is just incredible.
His life story is breathtaking and stuff.
Right.
So Barry, if we're ever at a racetrack together, I'll go introduce you to him, when he gets back on there. But Jasmine's going to be phenomenal for the sport this summer. I hope she has the opportunity to win a couple of rounds and do a couple of things or whatever, because she's what the sport needs is somebody like her. So it'd be killer.
Yeah, and she already did a great job like last weekend when they interviewed her, and she was talking about like her runs, and she was like, she's just she's a natural like her dad is, and I absolutely love and adore that they've got so many people in their home, in their household that are so involved and so in love with racing. I just think that that's incredible.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the shout out for sure. I definitely want to make sure that gets it in, because that is certainly near and dear to me too. Especially him originally being a California boy. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing so much of your time, your wisdom, your humor and personality with us. We truly, truly enjoyed you. And for all our audience, we hope and look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Gearheads and Gasoline Podcast.
Bye, everybody.
We know you don't want to miss an episode, so don't forget to smash that bell so that you get notified of every new episode. Click that like button, leave us a comment, and share with your people. And visit us repeatedly. We love it.